Welcome to the State of the School 2021. I'm here with Board Chair Chris Garcia in the Harris Theater, the traditional location for the State of the School. Socially distanced, of course.
The last time Jesse and I spoke to you at a State of the School address, it was January 28th, 2020. In preparation for this State of the School, I looked back at the video of that address. Those of you who attended will recall that we were gathered in person here in the Harris Theater. We started with a video that celebrated the success of our recent capital campaign. $15 million of new buildings and facilities constructed on time and on budget. Jesse and I cracked jokes. You humored us with laughter. It was a great night. That was 62 days before we went online as a result of the pandemic. We still have not been back in the Harris Theater together. That was 117 days before George Floyd was killed, sparking a moment of racial justice reckoning so deep and necessary that it would touch every one of us, not just for one news cycle or 1 week or even 1 month. No, it continues to confront and challenge us. And that was 344 days before a politically divided country witnessed its capital stormed by citizens who rejected the results of the presidential election. It has been quite a year. It is with no small measure of pride that I report on behalf of the Board of Trustees that the state of our school is strong. Indeed, I don't think it has ever been stronger. Enrollment is up. The endowment is up. Our children had a better online learning experience last spring than students at any other school in our region or anywhere. Our children have been on campus and in the classroom learning with their friends consistently since September. By almost any measure, Greenvale is excelling despite not 1, 2, but 3 once-in-a-lifetime crises that have buffeted us this past year. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to extend my deepest thanks to Jesse, the administration, and the faculty and staff of Greenvale for this remarkable success. We owe an incredible debt of gratitude to you. I also want to extend sincere appreciation to the parents who entrust their children to this school. Our success would not be possible without the tremendous community support you have given. In particular, with regard to COVID, we know that you sacrificed travel, nights out at restaurants, time with friends and extended family, all because you committed yourselves to keeping COVID away from our classrooms, our faculty, and our staff, so that they could stay healthy and safe, and we could stay open. Thank you from the bottoms of our hearts. And I want to thank my fellow board members. It's a group of 22 people who accomplished the work of hundreds. This past year in particular, this school has asked much of you, and you more than answered the call. Despite all of the challenges the year presented for you in your jobs and for your families, you gathered in committees and task forces and board meetings for hours each week to make sure the school didn't just succeed, but excelled. In particular, I want to thank the members of the Executive Committee, Kearney Staniford, Kate O'Neill, Jeff Busconi, Todd Edgar, and Sharon Crane, who met with me for several hours every Friday of every week over the summer to plan for this school year. And I want to take time to recognize John Koski. John headed the board's COVID-19 task force. A doctor and a business person, John used his considerable expertise to ensure that our school was the gold standard of safety in these COVID times. I've said many times that I make my living working with corporate boards, and you are a better board than any other with which I have had the privilege to work. Thank you for your talents and your commitment. Now that's all I'm going to say about the past today. That's because as fiduciaries of Greenvale, our job as trustees isn't just to be here to help the school manage through crises like the ones experienced this past year. It's always to have a keen eye on the future, to be laser focused on pushing the school to be the best it can be, not just now, but in the near, mid, and long-term future. Indeed, I want to spend the balance of my time discussing ways in which the board has been focused on moving past 20 and 21, even as we have addressed the challenges the past year presented. I'm going to cover 3 topics: the school's finances, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and strategic planning. As you know, one of our principal responsibilities as a board is to ensure the financial health of Greenville. I'm proud to report that the financial condition of the school is strong. As a result of increasing enrollment, your commitment to the annual fund, and the prudent management of our endowment, which currently stands at $32 million, the largest it has ever been. This past year, we, 1, were in a position that we didn't need to apply for funds from the government's Paycheck Protection Plan. 2, we were able to continue our tradition of being a debt-free school. 3, we did not furlough a single employee. 4, we were able to authorize a well-deserved December bonus for faculty and staff to recognize their efforts to get us back on campus and our kids back in the classroom. And finally, we were able to authorize an across-the-board raise for faculty and staff for the upcoming year. Now, if you were at last year's State of the School, you will recall that after a brief introduction about the strength of the school's financial condition, like the one I just gave, I launched into a deeper conversation of the school's finances, using a bunch of oh-so-exciting pie graphs. Who am I kidding? You don't remember that. And if you do, call me. You are clearly board member material. You may also recall that it was the first year as a board, my first year as a board chair, and my first State of the School address. I was a rookie. I was dumb. I'm smarter this year, and I've asked Jeff Bisconi, my fellow executive committee member and board treasurer, to take you through those charts. But seriously, I've asked Jeff to take you through those charts because he's smarter than I am. You're certainly in better hands with him than with me. And because he and the finance committee he leads really are responsible for the success that he's going to describe.
Thanks, Chris. First, let's set the record straight. Number 1, your pie charts from last year were extremely gripping and memorable. Number 2, while I lead the finance committee, which is an incredibly energetic and devoted group, we are not solely responsible for the financial success of the school. Our school is in great financial shape thanks to the full commitment of the Greenville community. Parents, alumni, grandparents, students, faculty and staff, we all play a critical role in committing our resources and energy in support of this amazing place. As Chris described, despite facing unprecedented challenges in the last year, Greenville remains in very strong financial shape. Enrollment has increased, which has allowed the school to cover additional expenses tied to operating through the pandemic, PPE, online learning technology and tools, and consulting fees, for example. At the same time, Jesse and the leadership team have continued to invest in our faculty and educational program, adding new teachers, supporting faculty pursuing advanced degrees, and expanding online learning capabilities and financial aid. As Chris noted, Greenville has not furloughed any faculty or staff since the beginning of the pandemic. In fact, in contrast to many schools, Jesse and his team have increased the size of faculty to support smaller and safer class sizes. Just as Chris did last year, let me now share with you the financial position of the school and remind you how the financial model works. The school costs $16 million to run each year. By far and away, our biggest expenses are faculty and staff. About 70% of the total costs, or $11 million of the 16. The remaining 30% of our costs are split between financial aid, facilities, and other costs, such as marketing and supplies. This year, as the pandemic took hold, the Finance Committee met weekly alongside Jesse, carefully studying the school's cost structure and modeling possible scenarios for the school, in-person learning, online learning, or even a mixture of both. So how do we cover the $16 million of expenses? Tuition covers most, about 80% of the $16 million. The remaining 20% comes from a handful of very important sources. Chief among them is the annual fund. The annual fund has historically raised about $1 million each year, although we came up just short of that goal in 2020. After tuition and fundraising activities, there is still a shortfall of approximately $1 million to cover the full $16 million of operating costs. We take the remaining $1 million from the endowment. As Chris mentioned, the endowment has a value of $32 million. Thus, we draw 3 to 4% each year to close the gap in our operating budget. A final word. The school is financially stable, and we are all extremely lucky that Greenvale has the resources to continue to invest in its overall program, from faculty development to better facilities to new curricular opportunities. With that said, our financial model, like that of many independent schools and nonprofits, is fragile. If one of the key drivers comes under pressure, the model easily falls out of balance. If enrollment drops, or costs are not carefully managed, or fundraising targets are unmet, the financial stability of the school can be at risk. So, just as we have for nearly 100 years as a community, let's all do our part to drive every piece of the financial model to protect and secure the financial future of the school. Now back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Jeff. Before we leave finances, I want to say an additional word about the endowment. As Jeff mentioned, the endowment is what gives ballast to our long-term financial stability. Because of its critical role in the school's future, this past year, despite the crises we were confronting, we created an endowment task force headed by my fellow executive committee member, Todd Edgar. The task force, which includes trustees like Hari Rajan and Brendan O'Brien, as well as parents, Robert Fine and Jim Gillies, has been focused on planning and strategies for investing the endowment smartly over the long term. Their work has included asking fundamental questions, like whether traditional notions of balanced investing in debt and equities make sense in what appears to be a long-term zero interest rate environment. With the board more broadly, they are evaluating the role of the endowment in our financial structure and whether it should take greater prominence through a concerted effort to grow it, which will make us less dependent on tuition and better positioned to provide financial aid. This is just one example of the board's forward-looking work. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Todd. And thank you, teams. Next, I want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, looking forward, the board this year created a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. Chaired by my executive committee colleague, Sharon Crane, the task force has been laser focused on ensuring that the school is best positioned to meet the objectives of diversity, equity, and inclusion over the long term. I will leave it to Sharon to take you through a few of the details, but before I do, I want to take a moment to underscore the importance of this work. You know that I believe that Greenvale is the best pre-nursery through 8 school in the country, but it is of this country. It is not impervious to the social forces and realities at work beyond the borders of our halcyon campus. These forces and realities are rooted in history and have a real impact on how our children of all colors, races, and creeds experience the world today, including on our campus. Lest there be any doubt about this, I am sad to report that even on our campus, there have been instances in which children have used hate speech, including towards other Greenvale students. Let me be clear. Some of our children have been heard saying the most vile racial, religious, and homophobic slurs with which you are familiar. Now, the instances, thankfully, are rare, and I believe that they are less common than in other schools. And the administration has dealt with them swiftly, but they occur, and this means that we have work to do. First and foremost, let me be crystal clear that this board fully supports the administration's zero-tolerance policy for the use of hate speech. Hate speech has no place in the Greenvale community. But beyond that, we support the school's efforts to, 1, ensure that our students who are diverse feel loved and respected in our school, whether they are diverse by color, race, creed, sexual orientation, disability, or political philosophy. 2, to provide an education that addresses the history of these forces and realities and has the courage to include truly great works of literature, poetry, and the arts that are authored by people different from the artists that we grew up with. 3, to teach our children how to have civil and respectful discourse on challenging issues, understanding that such discourse doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your convictions. And finally, to pursue diversity in our student body and our faculty because the world is a diverse place, and we owe it to our children to prepare them for this diversity, including helping them access the beauty and personal enrichment that can be achieved by being open to people who look and think differently than you do. With that, let's hear from Sharon.
My name is Sharon Crane. I serve on the board's executive committee as secretary and as the chairwoman of the board's new DEI task force. Chris noted the importance of DEI given current events in this country and even here at our own school. And that's true. However, I also see a renewed emphasis on DEI as a way to ensure we fulfill the school's longstanding mission, live our stated values, and prepare our children for the future. As a task force, we have been engaged with the administration. And as a result of that engagement, we supported and provided oversight with regard to the selection of a consultant with expertise in DEI and with experience at independent schools. That consultant's work has included training for the full board during our annual retreat. And working with Jesse, the consultant has also done training for faculty and staff on DEI concepts, language, and best practices. The task force is currently focused on working with Jesse and Narinder on 3 primary things. First, continuing the review of the school's curriculum, which includes the assessment of offerings in the lower school classroom libraries, an exploration of identity through literature in early childhood, and ongoing professional development for all of the faculty. Second, reviewing school policies, including the student handbook, honor code, and parent code of conduct, to ensure they align with our mission, values, and principles, and reviewing school procedures to ensure that there are clear protocols to address and respond to violations of our policies. Finally, gathering data on admissions, retention, resource allocation, demographics, and best practices to assess our strengths and highlight areas of opportunities as we begin to prepare the school's strategic plan. All of us on the DEI task force and the board at large are excited about the work ahead, and we invite any of you to share your thoughts and concerns with us. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
I would like to conclude by briefly talking about the board's strategic planning efforts. We are just 2 years away from our 100th anniversary as a school. I could not be more excited to announce that this spring, we will be launching a strategic planning committee that will be charged with charting the school's course for the beginning of its 2nd century. The committee will be charged with delivering, by our anniversary, a multi-year plan that will, among other things, 1, guarantee a cutting-edge education that aligns with the personal, educational, societal, and professional challenges of tomorrow. 2, that ensures that the school's finances provide a foundation for future growth. And finally, that makes sure that the school sets and meets goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion that will prepare our children for the balance of the 21st century. The first step in this process, which has begun, is to engage a consultant that will help us select a planning committee and provide advice for assembling our plan. You will be hearing much more about this process over the next 2 years. The strategic planning process will involve intensive engagement with parents, students, faculty, administrators, staff, and board members to ensure that we devise a robust plan that meets the needs and expectations of our entire community. Indeed, we will be tapping many of you to participate in various task forces to support this effort. If you have any interest in participating directly in planning the future of GVS, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to Jesse. Thank you for your time. Thank you for entrusting your children to us. And thank you for making Greenvale, Greenvale. Jesse?
Thank you, Chris. What a year this has been. Seeing the ways in which this community has risen to this occasion and all that has been asked of us makes me want to give a lot of handshakes, high fives, hugs. Don't worry, I won't do that. I will settle for sincere thanks. Thank you to our families for your trust and compliance. Thank you to our students for their flexibility and acceptance of new routines. Thank you to the board for letting all the right priorities govern their decisions. Thank you to my team for quickly reinventing new ways to do almost everything. And thank you, most of all, to the teachers for showing up for your GVS kids day after day in the face of new hurdles and risks without compromising the student experience or education. We're not going to spend tonight talking about all the things that have suddenly come to dominate so many conversations. Masks, cases, testing, quarantine, symptoms, exposure. But I will highlight some of the things I'm proud of. We've upheld our promise of being open and safe almost completely. To date, there have been no community spread of COVID-19 on our campus. In all grades, the academic content covered as of this date is on par with a normal year, if not slightly ahead due to the lack of field trips, parents' days, plays, rehearsals, and other special events that we all really miss. The best news of all may be that 50% of our teachers have received their first vaccine dose. Once the vaccine supply improves in our area, Northwell Health will arrange for remaining GVS employees to get appointments, possibly even coming to our campus to administer shots. We are keeping a close watch on case levels and state guidance, and we will wait as long as we can before making definitive announcements about spring sports, spring events, and even next year. As you can all attest from your personal lives, the experience of COVID-19 reveals our true colors as a family or as a school and continues to reaffirm our strengths. Two strengths that rise to the top during this time have been faculty excellence and commitment to community. In a year of exceptional stress, national chaos, and challenges, it feels appropriate to focus the rest of this presentation on how we are ensuring students' well-being. What kind of people are we collectively raising? What are we doing to ready them for this world? What do they need, aside from academic skills, to succeed in high school, in college, in their careers, and in lives? The term for all of this is social emotional learning, or SEL. I can't see you right now, but there may be some eye rolls. By the end of this, I'm confident that those rolling eyes will be nodding heads as we see that the hard skills taught at school don't result in success without the soft skills being honed in tandem. Dr. Mark Brackett is the founder of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He writes that, quote, "The ultimate goal of the SEL field is to weave the teaching of social emotional intelligence throughout a children's education so lives are enhanced and crises are rare," end quote. Angela Duckworth, author of the bestseller Grit, says, "Emotional intelligence is not a gift, but a skill, one that we can all learn and benefit from immensely." She's right. It is a skill, and skills can be taught. The Aspen Institute says SEL is not a fad, it's integral to education. The World Economic Forum reports that CEOs cite a desperate need for emotional intelligence in the workplace. Thankfully at Greenvale, we are all over this, starting in pre-nursery. For those who think that the emotional stuff is separate from the educational stuff, let's reframe the role that emotions play in the lives of children, adolescents, and adults. Emotions matter for attention, memory, and learning. Emotions matter for performance. Emotions matter for health and well-being. Emotions matter for decision-making. And of course, emotions matter for relationships. Decades of research supports the importance of SEL in schools. Research has shown when schools embed SEL into the school day with purpose, it improves children's lives, the culture of the school, and even teachers' well-being. At Greenvale, we believe that SEL efforts should be developmentally sequenced, learner-centered, and culturally relevant. SEL has been defined as a set of skills related to self-awareness, social awareness, the ability to manage one's own emotions and behavior, and handle those of others. It is also about making reasonable decisions and maintaining positive relationships. It extends beyond what we think of as emotion skills to study skills, cognition, actions, responses to adversity, aka grit, self-advocacy, confidence, and ultimately later success in future endeavors. So how are your children experiencing social emotional learning every day at Greenvale? First, it's important to know that the same skills are practiced in an age-appropriate manner throughout all grades. This is called scaffolding. Take self-awareness. In early childhood, this begins with purposeful discussions of a range of emotional states. Students learn that throughout the day, others may be experiencing different emotions from them. Teachers help students acknowledge and move through each state of mind, training them to acknowledge their state and cope productively through means such as communication. Conflict resolution skills are a big part of this. Purposely changing roles within a group is a way that teachers show children different perspectives. The simple act of watching a peer perform a duty that you did yesterday is an exercise in critical awareness of self versus other. As children get older, teachers work on recognition of how their behaviors can impact the group, both positively and not so positively. They learn that the excitement of having an answer to a teacher's question must sometimes be tempered with the need to wait for the turn to speak. They learn that tapping their foot during quiet reading time might be distracting to their classmate. Recognizing that different circumstances necessitate different behavior is part of this as well. Can I make a joke while walking to recess? Yes. Can I make a joke during a spelling quiz? No. The proximity of teachers to students throughout the day helps tremendously with this. The subtlety of sharing about oneself without bragging, resisting an urge to show disappointment in a partner or group assignment, allowing others space to have interests, tastes, and passions that have nothing in common with your own. At Greenville, these are all skills and behaviors that become ingrained in the culture. Small class sizes are often touted for enabling more attention from teachers, and this is true, but they also allow for far more practice in self-expression and more opportunity to see others take a different approach. Part of the reason GVS remains committed to offering extensive music, arts, athletics, life skills, and more is so that students can see themselves and others in very different contexts. They can excel and can be humbled by things that are harder. Trying and failing at something enables greater respect for those who can master it. I often think of the ensemble band and the orchestra as a great example of this. This exercise is as valuable for the child who will go on to pursue music through college as for the child who struggles to read notes or make their trumpet sound right and will never pick up an instrument again after Greenville. The ultimate experience of self-awareness for many Greenville students is the process of applying to high school. This is one of many benefits of a school that ends after 8th grade. It's a magical thing for a child to reflect on his or her own accomplishments, interests, hopes for the future, and ways in which they differ from their peers. Self-awareness is also connected to decision-making. Decision-making in early childhood might be as simple as a choice of a snack or an activity, but it's designed to give children a voice, which in turn leads to a deeper engagement with their learning. As students get older, the stakes get higher, as decisions can have positive and negative consequences. In lower school, good decisions are discussed in the intimate homeroom setting and rewarded publicly each week during assembly through citizenship awards. By upper school, decision-making extends to safety, time management, self-regulation, and the entire universe of choices, possibilities, and pitfalls connected to technology. Good decisions are sometimes for our own benefit, and sometimes for the benefit of someone else or a group. This leads us to social awareness and cultural competency. This is a particular area of focus as attitudes and awareness developed at an early age are more naturally ingrained. At the board, administration, and faculty level, we refer to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. Behind the scenes, we are hard at work refining and testing how we approach a broad array of topics at Greenville. From the student standpoint, they simply know that the ability to understand other perspectives, including those from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and contexts, is something that is a major priority at Greenville. Throughout the grades, we use literature as a way to open minds and spark dialogue. We also use holidays as a way to learn about and experience things that matter a great deal to members of our community and throughout the world. Often parents help guide these events, and we also feature outside performers and speakers for assemblies. Sometimes the material is more challenging. The closeness of our community, and of homeroom groups in particular, allows teachers and students to lean in and experience discomfort together. You'll hear shortly from our students about the importance of using empathy and curiosity to work across differences, achieve goals, and co-create the kind of community we all aspire to. As we've discussed, how we conduct ourselves vis-a-vis others is a part of SEL, but so is how we conduct ourselves vis-a-vis our work and our goals. This realm of SEL is also known as executive functioning, and having a growth mindset, part of why Greenvale kids are so successful in high school, is that we do this so well. How to organize, how to study, how to plan, how to seek help are all part of how to learn and how to get things done. Building these capabilities is very purposeful at Greenvale. Organizing your cubby, organizing your own desk, soon juggling a cubby and a desk and a locker, using a homework folder, using an agenda, using multiple teachers' Google Classroom pages, short-term assignments from one subject only, short-term assignment from multiple subjects, short-term and long-term assignments for 5 or 6 classes, how to handle 2 tests on the same day with hockey practice the night before. The Greenvale years are the perfect time to hone the ability to handle these scenarios. Failure is absolutely integral to the strengthening of these skills. Mental health, wellness, stress management, and positive thinking go hand in hand with academic success. Social emotional learning is certainly a lifelong pursuit. The work is not done when kids leave Greenvale, but without a doubt, students leave here with an understanding of its importance and a clear vision of how it is tied to their success. Let's hear from our students themselves and our division directors.
The teacher-student relationship and the fact that the child is known so well allows the child to be comfortable and feel more confident taking academic risks and pushing themselves than they normally would.
And they really know their kids what the challenges are as well and how to encourage them, how to move them forward.
One of the most important factors for student learning is timely and specific feedback from their teachers. And we do that, again, we do that everywhere.
And this place really built that sense of community and that sense of trust and connection, which is really a hallmark of this institution.
We are one community. Different grade levels, but we still are one community. We learn from each other, we understand each other.
Understanding the importance of the individual, but also of being part of a team, being part of a greater whole, is really essential.
Everyone is respected, valued, and seen.
And that sense of belonging is key to a sense of community.
Collaboration with their peers, that gives them the confidence to be able to effectively communicate with each other. We give children an opportunity to also broaden their emotional vocabulary.
As conflicts arise at Greenvale, teachers stop and recognize those moments. And teachers help students find the right language to resolve those conflicts.
And we spend a lot of time having them understand how someone else communicates, put themselves in somebody else's shoes.
During class discussions, children are able to practice both active listening and waiting their turn to speak, which are both critical skills for self-regulating.
We give children an opportunity to practice impulse control and delaying their gratification.
I think it's important for children to understand the impact they have on others. I often hear teachers saying, was that a good choice? And so they reflect then on their own decision-making, which is such an important skill.
Good decision-making is taught by giving students opportunities to make choices and then giving them an opportunity to unpack those choices.
Giving children a voice gives the child an opportunity to make their own decisions and building on those decision-making concepts.
We spend a lot of time with the students helping them learn how to build relationships and how to see themselves through others' eyes so that they know how they're being perceived. It's a tough thing for a child to be that aware of themselves in middle school.
We encourage children to play with each other and include each other. And we have a saying in early childhood, there's always room for one more.
As a school, it's critically important that we look at every situation and topic through as many lenses as possible, even when it can be difficult.
We intentionally create opportunities for students to expand their worldview.
Understanding that we are different, but what are those differences and how can we then work together for good?
And we had wonderful conversations about inclusion and the importance of acceptance. And this all came through after MLK, and children had wonderful conversations from pre-nursery through kindergarten.
When we talk about cultural competency, we mean the ability to successfully communicate with others across differences. As children move through the divisions, their individual responsibilities grow incrementally.
We really try to be very purposeful in the way we ask children to grow and to manage themselves year after year. From first grade, unpacking their own backpack, putting their materials in a particular place, keeping neat and organized desks, to managing when they get to 4th and 5th grade, a locker, moving class to class, having to take their books with them, and organizing all those materials. By 5th grade, they're writing a 3 to 5 page paper, and then they're ready for upper school when they have to take on far more responsibility.
By the time they get to upper school, students are prepared to juggle 5 to 6 classes requiring prioritizing, planning, and strategizing.
An important skill in any educational setting is to learn how to manage your time for a short-term, long-term project or assignment. Don't wait till the last minute. Students get projects that are due weeks from now, and they have to learn to budget their time.
Then they go to other teachers as well who have other expectations. And the ability to manage those transitions is really key. Those are all parts of executive functioning skills.
We continue to build it through longer periods of time, more responsibility. We're talking about social and emotional learning, but what we're really doing is building a community of learners.
In doing so, we hope that we're building good hearts and good souls.
By the time the students graduate from Greenvale, they are confident, self-assured, polite, respectful, educated young men and women who can be successful in any educational setting. They are highly independent, they're responsible, they're organized, they can manage their time, and they can face failure and learn how to pick themselves up and improve.
Greenvale develops a nice sense of giving back to the community. They teach us those important skills to always give back to people because we are so fortunate.
Greenvale wants to give back not just to their own community but to the entire world, and I feel like ingraining that core philosophy in every single student here has really made significant strides towards that goal.
Every Tuesday for an hour after school, we talked to senior citizens because this year they might not have seen their family as much. They might be lonely, sad, and you don't know what other people's lives are like. We just tried to be as nice and kind as possible to them. Greenvale's taught me every subject, how to be organized, my time management, how to study and study well. I make flashcards because writing it out is best for me to study.
I would say you learn a lot of time management when you're here. I would say that because you have so many different classes.
Usually they advise us to write on paper so we remember it better, and that same class preps us for SAT and just organization throughout the year and how to not fall behind on things.
I feel so great going into high school, and I won't have that huge gap of where I don't know how to juggle all of the work in high school. The teachers here and friends here have set a really good example for what I'm looking for in my next school.
I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna make new friends, my schoolwork will be fine because I've learned how to juggle all this homework.
Well, first off, my sisters have told me you're gonna breeze through 9th grade. We're already learning 9th grade stuff. So we know the material already. We're gonna be super prepared.
They always encourage you to pursue what you want to pursue in life. It's a really amazing school because not everyone is like an exact copy of each other. Everyone has their own interests, their own strengths, their own weaknesses, and when you put a bunch of people as bright as the students here together and with the amount of different talents, the amount of different interests, you just really have this amazing blend of people.
Independent, good people, nice, trustworthy, loyal. Everyone is really friends with each other. And I feel like I could trust everyone in my school, yeah.
Just being yourself, they really want you to, I guess, be out of your comfort zone, but still like know who you are as a person, and just don't be afraid to be who you are. Through like middle school, you're trying to find like who you are as a person and what stuff you like to do. And they kind of just like show you like different ways you could do it.
You learn how to interact with people, how to understand like basic like emotions, how to convey, how to empathize, and how to understand how other people are feeling in their lives.
Everybody's like different like personalities and backgrounds that they really help you like thrive to be the best student that you can be.
This year with the riots happening for Black Lives Matter, I know we've talked about a ton of different like racial issues and all of this, and we've learned about them.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, because that's really what's gonna like help the conversation evolve more. I would say no person at the school is the same, which is a really good thing. And I think since no one is the same, we all can just like come together and like experience each other's differences.
And I think it definitely also, Greendale helps a lot with your decisions with like your friends, and at the same time with your expressions to other people, maybe of different race. It definitely helps me to see that I have friends that are of all races, because with all of this racial justice that people have been trying to deal with, it's hard from people who are African American or people who are immigrants. You can definitely see where they're coming from.
We always try to be as inclusive as possible, and we just try to make everyone feel like they belong, because in reality, Greenville, everyone does belong.
Thanks so much for watching. And here's for us being together in this room next year.